Dead America. Tales of the First Month. Fast Food. By Derek Slayton. Chapter 1. Lexington, Kentucky. The morning of day 0. Monica rubbed her weary eyes as she waited for the stoplight to finally turn green, hoping to adjust to the pre-dawn darkness. Her beat-up, 20-year-old car rattled as the engine clung to life. "Come on, girl," she muttered softly. "You know I don't have the money to get you fixed up yet." The engine finally settled down, as if the car had listened to her. Once the vehicle's rumble subsided, she stroked the steering wheel like she would a purring cat. "There's my girl," she whispered with a fond smile. "Now I promise, once I get my next check, I'm going to get you in for a tune-up, and that oil change that should have been done 1,000 miles ago." She let out a sigh as the weight of her financial burden pressed heavily on her mind. Glancing into the rearview mirror, Monica caught sight of herself in her colorful fast food uniform. After a moment of self-pity, she perked up, determined to shake the feeling. "Hey, stop that right now," she scolded herself. "You know this is just temporary. Only 2 more semesters, and you're graduating. This time next year, you're going to be sitting in a cushy office with air conditioning. And with any luck, not a customer in sight." She continued staring at herself in the mirror, trying to summon some much-needed confidence as the light turned green. With a push of the pedal, she drove the last few blocks and pulled into the restaurant parking lot. "Oh Lord, give me strength to not strangle my coworkers," she murmured, her fleeting optimism fading as she pulled into the nearly empty lot. Only one other car was there, belonging to the assistant manager, Tyrone. "This is going to be a long day," she muttered to herself, falling back into her pity as she glanced toward the main road, hoping for reinforcements. On a normal morning, there were 5 of them running the place, but today, none were in sight. Monica quickened her pace across the parking lot, stepping inside just in time to hear Tyrone's booming voice coming from behind the counter. "Kelly, I don't give a good goddamn how sick you are," Tyrone barked into the phone. "I need you to come in. I'm the only one here." Tyrone turned, spotting Monica. She waved at him, prompting a sigh of relief. Even though he knew he wasn't completely alone anymore, he kept the guilt trip going. "Girl, come on now, we both know you're not sick. I know you and Jimmy were out at the club 2 nights ago, which means you spent your day off yesterday in a near alcoholic coma. Now get your ass in here so you can afford another bottle on payday." Monica could hear Kelly yelling through the phone, the sound loud enough to reach her from the entrance. Seeing Tyrone's rage building, she hurried over to him. Before he could tear into Kelly, Monica grabbed the phone from his hand and spoke in a no-nonsense tone. "Look, girl, I'm going to make this real simple. Get off your ass, chug a couple of cups of coffee to sober up, and be here in the next hour. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell Jimmy you're sleeping with Matt." The yelling on the other end intensified, but Monica remained unfazed. She let it continue for a few seconds before responding. "You can yell at me all you want, but that's what's going to happen if I don't see you in the next hour." The yelling began again, but she cut it off quickly. "You raise your voice to me one more time, and I'm going to tell Jimmy about the tailgating incident." Monica smirked as the line suddenly went quiet. "Yeah, that's what I thought, girl. Now get that coffee brewing, because the clock is ticking." She switched off the phone and tossed it back to a confused Tyrone. "Do I even want to know about the tailgate incident?" Tyrone asked. Monica chuckled. "The only thing I'll say is that when Kelly gets a few drinks in her, she becomes very, very friendly. And there were a lot of drinks flowing on that day." Tyrone shook his head. "Say no more." Still chuckling, Monica walked over to the employee terminal, punched in her number, and clocked in. After a few keystrokes, she grabbed an apron and turned back to Tyrone. "Okay, I'm now making money, so tell me what you need me to do." "Drop those hash browns into the fryer while I finish up the biscuits," Tyrone replied. "After that, jump on the register because the sun is coming up, which means only one thing." "Rude-ass customers barking at us?" Tyrone chuckled. "I wouldn't put it quite like that, but yeah, that sounds about right." Both of them laughed as they set to work, moving quickly to get food cooking, swapping out trays of fresh biscuits, and prepping for the morning rush. Have you heard from anybody else? Monica asked as she worked. I talked to Rob. He's sick. I tried the others on the roster, but no one picked up. What about the flex people? Tried a few, but didn't get an answer. I think we're on our own until Kelly drags her sorry butt in here. Fantastic. Don't worry, Tyrone said, trying to reassure her. We got this. I don't suppose this is a good time to talk about my raise, is it? Monica peeked around the corner, flashing a wide, playful smile. Tyrone looked up, meeting her gaze with a stern expression. Don't play with me, his face seemed to say. Monica burst into laughter at his expression and raised her hand, signaling her retreat. Based on your reaction, I think I made my point. I wish I could, Monica, Tyrone sighed, but there's just not enough in the budget. You could always cut some of that hard-drinking dead weight. Tyrone thought for a moment, then nodded. I tell you what, let's get through the morning in one piece, and I'll give Charlie up in the district office a call. Is that a deal? That's a deal. Before Tyrone could respond, the high-pitched ding from the front door sounded, causing his shoulders to slump. Drop some French toast sticks and get up to the register, he muttered. You got it, boss, Monica said in a playful tone, prompting Tyrone to shake his head in defeat. Don't call me that, he grumbled. They shared another laugh before Monica tossed a bag of French toast sticks into the fryer. Just as she was about to step out of the kitchen, the front door dinged again, and a customer's voice called out. Hello. Is there anybody there? Give me 2 seconds, and I'll be right there, Monica called back. Take your time, the customer replied. I'm in no hurry to get to work. You sound like you work here, Monica muttered under her breath, stifling a laugh as she emerged from the kitchen. 2 customers stood at the counter. In the front was a construction worker, and behind him was an older man in a business suit. Hey, sorry about that, Monica said. What can I get for you? Let me get a couple of sausage biscuits and a large coffee to go, the construction worker replied. Hash browns with that? No, I think I'm good. Just the biscuits and coffee. Monica rang up the order, and a few moments later, the sound of a ticket printing in the kitchen echoed through the nearly empty building. Okay, I got you taken care of. That'll be $6.95. The construction worker pulled out a wad of bills, peeled off a 5 and 2 ones, and handed them over. I appreciate it, and just keep the change. It's a shame you didn't pay with a 20, Monica teased, flashing a playful smile. The construction worker chuckled as he stepped aside. If you're done flirting, can you take my order already? The businessman snapped. Some of us have places to be. Monica exchanged a quick glance with the construction worker, a silent understanding passing between them. While their exact thoughts might have been different, they both agreed on one thing. What an asshole. Despite the businessman's rudeness, Monica turned to him with exaggerated cheer. Hi, thank you for waiting so patiently, sir. How may I assist you on this fine morning? The businessman let out an exasperated sigh before finally speaking. Let me get a chicken biscuit and a large coffee. Would you like to make it a combo and get some hash browns with that? Monica asked sweetly. No, I just want what I ordered. Are you sure, sir? It's only an extra 59 cents. The businessman slammed his hand on the counter, his face twisting in frustration. Look, little girl, I get that you're a failure in life, which is why you're working in this dump. But drop the goody-goody voice and just get me my damn order so I can go make more in a day than you're going to make all month. Monica's playful demeanor vanished. She stared him down coldly. That'll be $4.50, she said flatly. The businessman tossed a $5 bill at her. It fluttered down to the counter. Monica looked down at it, then back up at him with an expression that said, Bitch, are you for real? He stood there, smug and self-satisfied. Without breaking eye contact, Monica snatched up the bill, punched it into the register, and finished the transaction. 50 cents is your change. She counted out 10 nickels, each one clanging loudly on the counter. Tyrone, hearing the odd sound from the front, poked his head through the kitchen window. "Is everything okay up there?" he asked. "Yeah, boss, everything's fine," Monica replied, her voice calm but tight. "I'm just out of quarters, that's all." "You're about to be out of a job," the businessman sneered. "Bitch, please," Monica shot back. "I'm the only one who showed up for work today. I'm not going anywhere." The businessman stiffened, clearly restraining himself from reaching across the counter. But before he could act, the construction worker stepped forward, his voice firm. "Hey buddy, why don't you just take your change and back off? It's too early for this shit." The businessman whirled on him, his face twisted in rage. "Why don't you mind your own business?" "I'm making it my business," the construction worker growled. "And unless you want a Phillips head through your front tire, I suggest you apologize to the young lady." "Oh, now you're threatening me? That's rich." As the argument escalated between the two customers, the front door dinged again. Monica instinctively glanced over, ready to greet the new arrival, but her breath caught in her throat. A second businessman had entered, but his suit was ripped and stained with blood. Crimson streaks coated the white shirt beneath, and the creature's hollow eyes locked onto the arguing businessman. It let out a horrific moan before sprinting toward him. Chapter 2. Monica remained motionless, watching as the blood-soaked, zombified businessman ran across the store toward the bickering customers. Even though the ghoul was lightning quick, the scene played out in slow motion for Monica, who soaked up every detail. The creature's moan filled the air, but it wasn't loud enough to drown out the yelling from the customers. As the zombie got within a couple of steps of the businessman, whose back was turned, the construction worker caught a glimpse of what was happening. His eyes widened as he watched the creature plow into the businessman, the force of the impact driving them both into his arms. He tried to catch the falling man, but only succeeded in ensuring the zombie didn't lose its grip. The zombie latched onto the businessman's neck, ripping out a chunk of flesh and spraying the construction worker's face with blood. Panic immediately set in as the construction worker threw them both to the side and took off running toward the door. The weight of the ghoul on his back drove the businessman into the floor, where the zombie hopped onto him. It let out excited moans as it continued to feast. Monica watched helplessly as the construction worker darted out the door, setting off the doorbell again. He made it barely 3 steps before another creature ran toward him. The construction worker deftly avoided being tackled by the ghoul, stopping on a dime and shoving it aside. However, the second creature coming from that side managed to slam into him. The worker didn't fall to the ground, managing to shake off the attack, but the damage was done. His momentum was broken, and he was a sitting duck in the parking lot. Before he could get moving again, the first creature darted back and grabbed his arm, pulling it in for a bite. The construction worker continued to struggle, trying in vain to break free. Within seconds, however, he was overwhelmed by a small group of ghouls, all of whom began ripping flesh from bone. One of the creatures quickly lost interest in the pile of flesh on the parking lot ground and instead turned its attention toward the door. Monica finally snapped back to the moment, knowing she had to act. "Tyrone, we have trouble." Monica jumped over the counter, landing hard on the ground as she sprinted toward the door. She managed to reach it just before the outside zombie did, flicking the deadbolt as it slammed against the door. The ghoul thrashed about violently, slamming its bloody hands on the door in an attempt to get inside. Much to its dismay, the door held firm. However, the noise drew the attention of the other zombie inside the store. Monica heard footsteps behind her and turned to see the ghoul rushing across the restaurant at an alarmingly fast rate. She froze in the moment, unsure of what to do. Just before the creature reached her, Tyrone slammed into it from the side, sending it flying over a table and chairs. The ghoul and furniture clattered to the ground, the commotion growing as it flailed about in an attempt to get back to its feet. "Are you okay?" Tyrone asked, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Yeah," Monica replied quickly. "Good. Now get behind the counter," Tyrone ordered with a weighty authority that left no room for argument. Monica ran for the counter, hopping over it to relative safety as her boss prepared for the creature's next assault. "Come on, asshole. I'm ready for you, Tyrone muttered, readying himself for the fight as the ghoul finally got back to its feet. The creature let out an excited moan before rushing at him. Tyrone stood his ground, waiting for the right moment to duck down just before the ghoul reached him. His shoulder drove into the zombie's gut, allowing him to easily wrap his arms around its waist and yank the creature off its feet. Rather than body slam the zombie, Tyrone went straight back into a suplex, not adjusting for safety. He kept the creature's head up as he drove it straight into the ground. Despite the banging on the door from the outside zombie, the audible crack of the neck was loud enough that Monica heard it from behind the counter. Tyrone pushed off the creature, crawling on the ground for a few feet before coming to a stop. He sat there, staring at the bloody zombie businessman as it twitched and convulsed, the last bits of unlife leaving its body. It took several agonizing seconds for it to fall lifeless. "Tyrone, are you okay?" Monica called out. The assistant manager continued sitting there, staring at the body on the ground in disbelief. The only thing that knocked him out of his stupor was the sound of more zombies joining the one outside, their combined banging on the glass growing louder. "Tyrone." "Yeah, Monica, I'm fine. I just need a minute." "Well, take all the time you need, boss, because I don't think that asshole customer is going to make it, and I damn sure know we ain't opening back up today." Tyrone let out a horror-laden laugh, breaking the tension and getting Monica to laugh as well. After a brief moment, they both snapped back into action. "Are the other set of doors locked?" Monica asked. "Yeah, I only unlocked the main door." "Do me a favor, boss. Go ahead and check them again for me, just to be safe." "Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'll make sure the drive-through window is locked down." Tyrone nodded and gave her a thumbs up as she vanished into the kitchen. He sat there for a moment, looking up at the zombies outside, pressed against the glass. "You're lucky you're out there, because I'll whip your ass like I did your friend here," Tyrone muttered, chuckling to himself as he started to get up off the floor. Before he could, however, he heard stirring coming from the floor in front of the counter. He turned his head to see the bitten businessman sitting up. "What the hell?" The creature looked in his direction, letting out an excited moan as it scrambled to its feet. Tyrone tried to do the same, but the ghoul was on him too quickly, slamming into him and sending the assistant manager back to the ground. Tyrone fell flat on his back, but he managed to get his left leg up just high enough to catch the zombified businessman in the gut. The ghoul leaned forward, effectively pinning its potential victim to the ground. "Monica," Tyrone shouted, straining as he tried to move the zombie off to the side, but the creature managed to keep its balance with its feet on the ground, moaning and drooling blood as it thrashed about, coming within inches of grasping him. The weight of the creature began to take its toll on Tyrone, who was struggling to hold it up. Before it could get too low, however, Monica came in from behind, slamming one of the metal mesh deep fry baskets onto its head. She used enough force to wedge the basket around the ghoul's head, jumping up and smacking the top of it to firmly lodge it onto the skull. Once secure, she grabbed onto the handle and began pulling back on it. The zombie thrashed about frantically, its arms flailing and body turning, trying to break free of Monica's grip, but it was to no avail. She managed to pull the creature back off her boss. "I'm not going to be able to hold him forever," she shouted. Tyrone scrambled to his feet, dodging the outstretched, flailing hands of the creature as he came around to its back. He grabbed onto the handle, allowing Monica to let go. I got him, Tyrone assured her. "Well, what in the hell do we do with him?" Monica asked, eyes wide with panic. Tyrone thought for a moment before glancing back toward the kitchen. A small smirk began playing at the corner of his mouth, knowing he finally had the opportunity to live out a fantasy he'd always had toward rude customers. "Get the door to the back," Tyrone ordered. Monica didn't hesitate, rushing back to the side of the front counter and opening the door. As she did that, Tyrone kept one hand on the fryer basket and his other hand firmly on the back of the zombie's shirt. He spun the ghoul around so he could shove it toward the kitchen. "Okay, asshole, even though I'm pretty sure you can't understand me, I'm going to give you a choice. You can calm down, or I'm going to do something I've always wanted to do, and it's something you're not going to enjoy." The creature didn't respond, outside of continuing to moan and thrash about. So much for calming down. Tyrone grunted as he put his back into it, shoving the ghoul through the door and toward the kitchen. It took some maneuvering, but he got the creature into the back, lining it up with the deep fryer. "Monica, I'm going to need your help," Tyrone called over his shoulder. "What do you need?" she asked, already moving closer. "When I tell you to, I want you to grab his legs and lift up. Just tell me when." Tyrone nodded and raised his voice to the zombie once more. "Okay, asshole, last chance. Are you going to calm down?" The ghoul didn't respond outside of more moaning and thrashing. "That's what I thought. Monica, give him a boost." Monica dropped to her knees, sliding in behind the zombie's legs and grabbing hold. She lifted with everything she had, which allowed for Tyrone to plunge the creature's head into the deep fryer. He let go of the basket handle, grasping onto its legs and struggling to hold them in place as the ghoul convulsed. It took a solid minute before the creature began to calm down, finally falling lifeless. Just to be on the safe side, Tyrone continued holding the ghoul in place for another minute, not wanting to give it a chance to cause more damage. "I think you got him, Tyrone," Monica said gently, putting her hand on his shoulder, her touch bringing him back from his hyper-focused state. Tyrone relaxed, releasing the zombie's legs. Together, they lowered the body to the ground, stepping back cautiously as they watched the corpse. Its head continued to boil in the bubbling oil, the smell of burning flesh beginning to fill the room. "Should we take the head out?" Monica asked, wrinkling her nose at the stench. "I wouldn't mind him cooking for another few minutes. I mean, he was an asshole, wasn't he?" Tyrone replied with a wry grin. Monica let out a chuckle, but it quickly turned into a sob. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she wiped them away with the back of her hand. "Hey now, it's going to be okay," Tyrone said, his voice softening. "What's going on, Tyrone? What is happening to the world?" Monica's voice cracked, overwhelmed by everything that had transpired. "I don't know, Monica. I don't know," Tyrone said. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the air, the sound of metal on metal. They both flinched and rushed toward the front of the store, vaulting over the counter to get a better look. Peering through the glass, they saw a car crash at the intersection just across from the restaurant. Dozens of creatures ran rampant in the street and parking lots, creating a scene of pure havoc. The car that had crashed was being swarmed by ghouls, and from the restaurant, Monica and Tyrone watched helplessly as the passengers inside were attacked. Several cars managed to avoid the accident, weaving between the hordes of undead. A couple of unlucky ghouls met the business end of bumpers, their flailing bodies flying through the air and crashing down hard on the asphalt. As they continued watching the mayhem outside, Tyrone glanced up at the glowing neon open sign hanging by the door. He reached up slowly and pulled the chain, clicking it off. "Yeah, we're definitely not going to need that today." Chapter 3. Monica and Tyrone stood motionless by the window for several minutes, watching in disbelief as the world outside fell apart. Their focus fell on another car wreck that happened just in front of the Supercenter parking lot across the street. One car was driving way too fast, slamming into the rear end of another vehicle. Whoever was in the back seat didn't have their seat belt on as they flew through the front windshield. The poor soul crashed into the back windshield of the car in front of them, crumpling into a pile. The victim struggled to move but was quickly overwhelmed by a couple of zombies within seconds. Several chunks of flesh were ripped from them before the ghouls lost interest and ran off in search of fresh prey. Monica and Tyrone flinched when gunshots rang out a few yards behind the accident. A man fired several rounds into the chest of a creature, trying to pull him out through the window. When he realized the chest shots weren't doing any good, he adjusted his aim and fired a round through its head. The ghoul collapsed, giving the man a chance to escape. He slammed on the gas, pulled onto the sidewalk, and rolled over a couple of zombies before diverting into the Supercenter parking lot. The ghouls he hadn't run over sprinted after him, quickly disappearing behind parked cars. "Oh my God," Monica said, her voice trembling. "I know, right?" Tyrone replied, shaking his head. "No, I mean, oh my God, look at that poor bastard who took a header through the windshield," she said, pointing at the car wreck victim. Tyrone turned his attention to the gruesome scene, watching as the body began to reanimate. Its limbs were in bad shape, with a bone sticking out from its right leg, but that didn't stop it from moving. The ghoul looked around before locking its gaze on the driver of the wrecked car. It crawled across the hood, pulling itself inside and starting to attack. A spurt of blood splattered against the cracked window, prompting the two fast food workers to look away in disgust. Tyrone turned from the window and marched over to the counter with a sense of purpose, confusing Monica. "What in the world are you doing?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Something I hate doing with every fiber of my being," Tyrone said, calling the police. Monica chuckled as she watched him pick up the phone and dial 911. Before he could put the receiver to his ear, he pulled it away, startled by the loud, unexpected tones. He hung up and dialed again, but the same response greeted him. "What is it?" Monica asked, her concern growing. "Well," Tyrone sighed, "the police ain't coming to help." Monica gestured toward the world outside as more gunshots echoed from across the street. "I think it's pretty safe to assume they know there's a problem. I know some of them boys aren't the brightest bulbs, but even they've got to know something bad is happening." Tyrone nodded in agreement before setting the phone down. Within seconds, however, he snatched it back up and began dialing again. "Now who are you calling?" "The fire department," Monica teased. "I'm calling Kelly. If this isn't happening where she's at, I don't want her driving into it." Even though Monica was mad at Kelly, she nodded in agreement. It took a few moments for the phone to start ringing, but the call went to voicemail after a long series of rings. "Kelly, it's Tyrone. I don't know if you've left the house yet, but if you haven't, stay put. Lock your doors and windows and don't go outside. There's some bad stuff going down. Call me back when you get this," Tyrone said into the receiver, then clicked off the phone and tossed it onto the counter. "What about the others?" Monica asked. "The only other people I got a hold of were still in bed. And you know how it is if you get woken up once." "Yeah, you turn the ringer off after that," Monica finished for him. "Yep." "Well, now that we have our co-workers taken care of, I think we need to focus on something much more important," Monica said. "And what's that?" Tyrone asked. "What in the hell we're going to do?" "I don't know about you, but I'm grabbing one of those sausage biscuits and some coffee. They're hot, and I plan on giving them a good home," Tyrone said with a grin. Monica contemplated for a moment before nodding in agreement, joining him at the counter. The assistant manager grabbed a few biscuits and tossed them down onto the counter before moving toward the coffee. "How do you take your coffee?" Tyrone asked. "Just like my men, strong and black," Monica quipped. Tyrone let out a hearty laugh as he fixed them both a cup of coffee. They sat down together at the counter, sipping the warm brew. "I would say I'd get us some hash browns," Monica mused, "but I don't want to go near the fryer." "Yeah, I wouldn't trust anything that's been that close to whatever that guy has," Tyrone added, pointing toward the zombie cooking in the fryer. "That does bring up a good question. Just what in the hell is going on?" Monica asked. "I don't know, but it's not good," Tyrone said gravely. "Yeah, no shit. Some sort of virus, maybe? An infection? All I know is we've seen 2 people bitten, and they turned into whatever those things are," Tyrone explained. "So it would probably be wise to avoid getting bitten," Monica said. "That's generally good advice, regardless of the situation," Tyrone said with a chuckle. "Ain't that the truth? Especially with the way they do it." They both nodded, digging into their breakfast sandwiches. Despite the horrors of the morning, they savored every bite. After several quiet moments filled with chewing, Monica broke the silence. "So, Tyrone, what are we going to do?" "I don't know about you, but my happy ass is going to sit right here for as long as I possibly can," Tyrone replied confidently. "That's not much of a plan." "It doesn't need to be. This place is locked up tight. As long as the power stays on, we've got a month's worth of food if it's just the 2 of us. Even if the power goes out, we still have dry goods to keep us going," Tyrone reasoned. "If those things outside don't kill us, then a month of eating this food certainly will," Monica joked, drawing a laugh from both of them. "Well, we all gotta die of something. I'd much rather die from overeating this crap than becoming one of those crazy people's dinner, Tyrone quipped. Ain't that the truth? Monica agreed, raising her coffee cup in a toast. Tyrone clinked his cup against hers before heading to refill their drinks. Thanks, Tyrone, Monica said. Yeah, don't mention it. It's hot and fresh, but it doesn't keep very well, so drink up. I plan on it, Monica said as they both fell silent, sipping their coffee. The only sound in the room was the constant banging on the glass by the ghouls still trying to get inside. After a few moments, Monica spoke again. Hypothetically, though, if we had to leave here, what would we do? Tyrone raised an eyebrow. So this is what you want to do to pass the time? I mean, I've got a deck of cards in my car if you want to run out and grab them, Monica said with a smirk. Tyrone cracked a smile and shook his head. You know what? A little contingency planning can't hurt. So, talk it out. What are you thinking? Well, wherever we go, we aren't getting there in my car. That poor girl's on her last legs, and if one of those things so much as bumps into it, she'll fall apart, Monica said. Well, we ain't taking my car either, Tyrone added. Why not? I thought you put a ton of money into that thing. Oh, I did. Poured every dime I had into it, Tyrone said. In hindsight, I might have been better off saving some of that money to put into the gas tank. Speaking of which, I'm going to need to hitch a ride home after the shift. Both of them broke into laughter at the absurdity of the situation, their voices echoing in the otherwise tense atmosphere. Okay, so our cars are out, and I don't think running for it is going to get us far, Monica said. Hey now, I'm a finely tuned athlete. I have full confidence that I could at least make it to the supercenter. Tyrone trailed off when Monica shot him a skeptical look, as if to say, are you sure? Well, I could at least make it to the supercenter parking lot, he corrected. There it is. I can believe that, Monica teased. It's a shame we can't take that SUV out there. That big boy would plow through those things without much issue, Tyrone said, nodding toward the parking lot. Monica glanced over her shoulder, spotting the shiny silver SUV parked a few cars down from hers. As she stared, an idea sparked in her head. Tyrone noticed her expression change. Oh, now that's a girl with an idea, he said. Damn right I do, Monica replied, sliding her coffee cup to the side before hopping over the counter. Tyrone followed her into the kitchen, where the businessman zombie was still sizzling away in the fryer. Monica clicked off the machine as she dropped to one knee, sliding closer to the corpse and patting down its pants. It took a moment, but then she felt the keys. With a triumphant grin, she reached into the pocket and yanked them out. I think we just might have ourselves a ride, she said, holding the keys up triumphantly. Tyrone motioned for her to follow. Well, let's go see if those are the right keys. The two of them raced out of the kitchen, jumping over the counter and moving toward the window. As they approached, a couple of zombies in the parking lot spotted them and immediately sprinted toward the glass. The ghouls slammed into the window, hard, as if they didn't comprehend there was something in their way. Monica and Tyrone both jumped back at the impact, startled by how fast the zombies had moved. Those boys are fast, but damn, they don't seem too bright, Tyrone said, shaking his head. I think you just described my ex, Monica quipped, causing Tyrone to chuckle despite the tension. Monica raised the keys and pressed the lock button. Both of them watched with satisfaction as the lights on the SUV flashed. I think we're in business, Monica said. Good. So a month from now, when we're running low on food, we know how we're getting out of here, Tyrone said with a grin. One can only hope, Monica replied. As the two of them turned to head back toward the front counter, the unmistakable screech of tires from the road outside stopped them in their tracks. They turned just in time to see a speeding sedan barreling through the intersection. Oh, don't you dare, Tyrone muttered, watching helplessly as the speeding car narrowly avoided a couple of wrecked vehicles before jumping the curb and heading straight into the fast food restaurant's parking lot. Tyrone grabbed Monica's arm and pulled her hard as they both bolted toward the front counter. Just as they reached it, they dove with everything they had, sliding over the counter and crashing to the ground on the other side. The sedan plowed through the front of the restaurant with a deafening screech of metal against metal and a symphony of shattering glass. The vehicle's front end smashed through tables and chairs, the momentum carrying it deep into the building. Monica and Tyrone huddled together on the floor, bracing for impact, the sound of destruction closing in around them. Chapter 4. The engine of the sedan continued to whine loudly, but much to the surprise of the co-workers, the front counter wasn't smashed into. Monica looked over toward Tyrone and began to speak, but before any words could form, he put his hand over her mouth. With another motion, he got her to stay quiet and let her know he was going up for a look. She nodded softly and watched as Tyrone slowly rose from his crouched position. As his eyes cleared the threshold of the counter, he spotted the still-running sedan. The front edge of the vehicle was only a few yards away from the counter, but the rear end was sticking up in the air, seemingly caught on a table. Tyrone breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that, without that object lodging itself under the car, they'd both likely be dead. He briefly considered jumping over the counter to shut the car off, but thought better of it when he spotted zombies running after the car from the road. Before he ducked back down, he glanced over to the driver's seat, seeing a businessman pressing his hand against a nasty-looking neck wound. His eyes were wide open, but there was nothing behind them. Tyrone looked at him for several seconds before ducking back down behind cover and whispering to Monica. "We have to get the hell out of here." "Do you still have the keys?" Tyrone asked in a hushed voice. Monica gripped them tightly as she held them up. Tyrone gently took them from her as quietly as he could. "Okay, I want you to stay on my hip. We're going to run right through these bastards," Tyrone instructed. "Where are we going?" Monica asked, her voice wavering with tension. "Right through the front of the store." "But we have to move now," Tyrone said firmly. Monica nodded as the two popped up from behind the counter, but before they could jump over it, the front edge of the mob from the street reached the gaping hole in the front of the store. "Damn it," Tyrone muttered under his breath. The creatures immediately spotted the duo, letting out excited moans as they rushed through the destroyed store. The ghouls plowed through overturned and broken tables, desperate to reach their fresh meal. "We're going out the back," Tyrone barked, grabbing Monica's hand and pulling her along through the door to the kitchen. They moved quickly through the small area as Tyrone kept an eye out for anything that could be used as a weapon. Unfortunately, the kitchen yielded nothing of value since everything at the store was either deep-fried or microwaved. "That's what I get for not working at a real restaurant," Tyrone muttered to himself as they reached the back door. He slid open the peephole and looked through it. There was movement about 15 yards to the left, which was away from where they needed to go. "Okay, there's a couple of those things out there, and they're going to be on our asses. You stay on my hip, and I'm going to run those bastards down. When we get to the SUV, get into the back seat and buckle up." Monica's voice was steady but laced with fear. "Okay, I'm with you." Tyrone nodded before throwing open the deadbolt to the back door. He hesitated for a moment but quickly snapped back into the moment when he heard moans and footsteps coming from the front of the kitchen. "Here we go," he said, throwing open the door. The duo darted out, taking a hard right toward the side of the restaurant. Immediately, the two creatures to their left took notice and began pursuit. Tyrone led them around the corner where they spotted half a dozen creatures standing between them and their escape vehicle. The ghouls were spread out pretty well, with 3 of them still pressed against the glass and the other 3 a few yards apart from each other. Tyrone picked up a head of steam, lowering his shoulder like a fullback leading the way for his rusher. The first creature, a frail-looking older woman, was no match for the shoulder slam from the much larger man. As the granny zombie smacked to the pavement with a thud, it drew the attention of the other ghouls by the window. By the time they broke away from the glass, the duo was already approaching the second zombie. Rather than plow through it, Tyrone grabbed it by the throat and belt, lifting it off its feet and tossing it to the ground in the direction of the trio. Monica glanced over at the flanking threat, watching with relief as a couple of the zombies tripped over the creature as it struggled to get back to its feet. One, however, was in hot pursuit and gaining ground quickly. Tyrone lowered his shoulder and slammed into the final zombie standing between them and the SUV, knocking it straight backward with enough force that its skull cracked on the pavement upon impact. Tyrone hit the unlock button on the keychain, and the lights of the SUV sprang to life, accompanied by the satisfying thunk of the locks unlatching. Both of them reached the SUV at the same time, throwing open the doors and jumping inside. Monica slammed her door shut, but before Tyrone could get his closed, the last pursuing creature shoved its arm inside, preventing the door from closing. "Damn it," Tyrone yelled, keeping a firm grip on the door. "Get this thing started," he shouted back to Monica. Monica leapt into action, diving over the front seat and hitting the start button on the dash. A split second later, the SUV rumbled to life. "Buckle up. This is going to be a bumpy ride," Tyrone warned, throwing the car into drive and slamming on the gas. The SUV lurched forward, jumping the curb and landing hard in the neighboring parking lot. The force of the bounce dislodged the zombie, allowing Tyrone to slam the door shut. He got to the road, turning onto it as he grabbed the seatbelt and secured it. He weaved in and out between rushing zombies, several of which bounced off the side harmlessly. He made the turn onto the next road, speeding up a bit to put some distance between them and the zombies still running after them. "Are you okay?" Tyrone asked, glancing over at Monica. "Yeah, I'm fine." "Are you okay? You're not bitten, are you?" she replied, her voice filled with concern. "Nah, I'm fine. That asshole smacked me pretty good, but the only part of him that touched me was his arm." "That's good," Monica said softly. Tyrone slowed down as they approached the next intersection. Several wrecked cars, including a police cruiser, were scattered around. He came to a stop beside the cruiser, noting the open door and the blood splattered on the side of the car, some pooling on the pavement. "I don't know if it was the cop who bit the big one, but someone sure did," Tyrone remarked grimly. "Where in the hell are we going to go?" Monica asked, her voice rising with frustration. "I don't know, but I'm thinking that shotgun might be of some use for us," Tyrone said, eyeing the weapon in the police cruiser's passenger seat. Monica looked out the window toward the cruiser, spotting the shotgun. "You're out of your damn mind, Tyrone. Just drive us out of here. We're going to need weapons, and none of those things are around here. I'm going to go get it," Tyrone declared. "The hell you are," Monica protested. She undid her seatbelt and climbed into the front seat. Tyrone responded with a quiet stare that cut her to her core. She could see the seriousness in his face and finally realized that he was right. "Just be careful," Monica said, her voice softening. "And you be ready to drive," Tyrone instructed. Monica nodded as Tyrone scanned the area once again for threats. He paused briefly when he spotted a couple of zombies emerging from behind some cars on the other side of the intersection, but continued moving when he noticed they hadn't spotted them yet. Gently, he opened the driver's side door and slid out, placing his feet on the pavement as quietly as possible. The police cruiser was only a few yards away, but he took the journey one quiet step at a time, knowing that a single noise would draw the zombies to him. Just as Tyrone reached the cruiser, Monica called out, "They spotted you." Tyrone looked back at the two ghouls across the intersection, both of them sprinting toward him at an alarming rate. Behind them, half a dozen more were following, all hungry for a fresh meal. "Son of a bitch," Tyrone cursed, quickly reaching into the police car to grab the shotgun. He turned back toward the SUV, watching as Monica slid behind the wheel and slammed the door shut, hitting the gas and lurching forward. She cut the wheel hard to the side, pulling in between Tyrone and the encroaching mob. "Get your ass in here," Monica shouted. Tyrone didn't waste any time. He darted toward the SUV, throwing open the back door and diving inside, just as one of the creatures came around the side. Before he could shut the door, the zombie reached inside, grabbing onto his legs. "I'm in. Go," Tyrone yelled. Monica slammed on the gas, spinning out as she got them moving through the intersection again. As she drove along, the lone zombie continued gripping Tyrone's legs. It took him a moment to break one leg free so that he could kick the creature in the face. After several crushing blows, the ghoul lost its grip and fell to the pavement, rolling violently as the SUV sped away. Tyrone sat up and grabbed the door, pulling it shut before breathing a sigh of relief. I bet you're going to listen to me next time, aren't you? Monica said, her voice teasing. Hey now, I got the shotgun, didn't I? Tyrone retorted with a grin. And you nearly had a chunk taken out of your ass. Now didn't you? Monica quipped. Yeah, you're right. But next time I'll be able to take their head off before they get too close, Tyrone replied. Yeah, you just keep telling yourself that, Monica said with a smirk. Tyrone laughed as he climbed into the front seat. Once his safety belt was secured, he clicked on the radio and began scanning the channels. Every single one he stopped on was just filled with music, confusing the duo. Where the hell is the news? Or emergency broadcast? Monica asked, frustration creeping into her voice. Maybe nobody's at the switch? Tyrone suggested as he continued scanning the radio. After hitting the button to move on, Monica spoke up in an almost panicked voice. Turn it back. Turn it back. Okay, what is it? Tyrone asked, quickly hitting the button to return to the previous station. He looked over to Monica, expecting some sort of reaction, but all he got was a smile and a head bob. Monica? Be quiet. I like this song. And this might be the last time I get to hear it for a while, Monica said softly. Tyrone let out a smirk and a sigh as he settled into his seat. Monica continued to sing along with the song as they drove closer to the outskirts of the city, heading toward an unknown future. The end.